All right, what's up, guys? Kyle Newell here from Newell Strength with my buddy Chris Lopez. We are starting officially Jersey Muscle Radio. This is our first episode. We will be discussing anything you can think of as far as body composition, physique enhancement, um, cosmetics, how your body looks. So just sit back and enjoy. I'll let Chris say a few things, and then we'll get rocking and rolling on the first episode.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Chris Lopez. Just like Kyle said, we're going to be covering bodybuilding, strength training, everything in between, and probably some stuff that you may not be familiar with, or stuff that you guys are not sure that you can do as bodybuilders to help get you more muscle and get you a little leaner. So just hang tight and enjoy the first show.
All right, so for today's topic, we are going to be talking about fat loss. With the summer here, actually tomorrow. Tomorrow's June 21st. We'll talk about things that we've done and maybe some myths and whatnot. So, Chris, why don't you tell us? I know you've competed a few times. What have you found to be the best as far as diet-wise for fat loss?
Um, Both times I competed, it was quite a few years ago. I think the last time was 2008, and I was doing the 5 or 6 meals a day like everybody does. I got pretty lean. Felt like crap, but it's part of the deal, right? But but that's all that I knew was there was no fasting, there was no intermittent fasting, there was no guys just weren't doing that type of dieting. I don't think most guys still are as far as bodybuilders go. I don't think they realize you can kind of take a fast day and it can kind of help you. But when I was competing, that's what I did was the 5 meals a day, eat every 2 hours, and that sort of stuff because that's what I was told to do. And I think there's still a lot of guys that still follow that kind of template because that's all they know. So there
Yeah,
aren't
and I mean,
stuff.
I remember the first time I competed, I had the guy. I hired some guy to help me out, and he basically starved me for 16 weeks. No calorie spikes, no refeeds. And that was probably the hardest prep I went through mentally. And it was terrible after the show because what wound up happening from dieting in such a deficit for so long was I gained 35 to 40 pounds within the next 3 or 4 days after the show.
Yeah, you hit that
So that was
rebound.
definitely, what's that?
You hit that rebound.
Yeah, the rebound. And it's, people don't really think about that, the damage that they're doing when they go into these severe deficits. Um, So this time around, I've been utilizing more of a cyclical type diet from Lyle McDonald. Scott Abel's also got some stuff I've used before, but basically, I'll diet really hard 4 or 5 days of the week, low calories. I'm talking like 1,600 calories a day for a guy my size. I'm 215 pounds. Very low carb. Then on Sundays, I increase it. I try to take in 1,200 to 1,400 grams of carbs, proteins around 200 grams. I keep the fat low so that those carbs cannot get stored as fat, but they re-up thyroid, leptin, growth hormone, all that stuff, and it kind of allows the fat loss process to continue on. So it's not traditional. I'm sure, like we were saying, a lot of people think when you diet, you can't refeed, but I think there's definitely a necessary need for it.
Absolutely, and it's funny you say that. You just saying that actually made me think. When I did my first competition, I thought I needed to do very low carbs, and I got to a point where I was probably eating 1,400 calories a day with no refeeds. So
Wow.
I got because I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was clueless. I didn't have a coach. Like I was just reading forums and like different websites and just stuff people told me to do on forums. And I showed up to the show. I was bloated. I still probably could have lost. I was definitely not in the shape I should have been for that first one. But like you said, the refeeds are necessary, especially if you're on a low carb diet. And you know, you can only be in a deficit for so long before your body kind of gives you the finger. And people kind of have to take that into account. There's no right or wrong way to diet. There's no like holy grail of dieting. You just kind of have to figure out what's going to fit your lifestyle and figure out what you're capable of doing. You could still get really lean eating 5, 6 meals a day, um, but at the same time, you could still get really lean and fast in the morning and then have your meals, 2 or 3 big meals in the evening. It's still possible. It just matters what you can do. So
Yeah, and I think you said everybody's different. Stuff's going to work for different people. And I think when people talk about fat loss, they have, that people that have never really gotten super lean, they don't realize that it's, I don't want to call it painful, but from when you competed, but it is painful to get down to, 4 or 5% body fat,
fine, man, absolutely.
you know, and it's,
Um,
if people don't realize that, I think they have unrealistic expectations. Okay, how lean do you want to get, and is that even achievable for their body type? Some people, it's not possible.
you know what I find with people too, and it, it pisses me off is there's guys giving fat loss advice that have been ripped their entire life. like like they're telling people how to get under 10% body fat, and they've been 6% or 8% their entire life. They can eat whatever they want. You know what I mean? And they're giving fat loss advice. They're the wrong people to be giving fat loss advice because they've looked like that their entire life. So of course whatever they say is going to work because it's they've never had to really go through that grind. Um, so just kind of be careful on who you listen to too.
Yeah, I found that in particular too. Me and you are both business owners. We actually have a training background or whatnot, but I see at a lot of the shows, you get bodybuilders that become personal trainers, and it's like they take their success, and people think their success equates to expertise. When, like you're saying, these guys are, it's a God-given gift. I mean, some of
Yeah,
these guys are eating
yeah,
5,000 calories and staying lean, or that's their dieting down is 5,000 calories. Well,
right.
that's not going to work for 99.9% of the people.
We're the guys who don't do cardio or conditioning to get lean. Like there's a lot of pros I know who don't do cardio.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
I
the way
mean,
it is.
it is, yeah, and I think that's a whole different topic. Is for the average, it depends on who we're talking about. For the average person, if they want to get lean, traditional cardio is not the most efficient because timing wise. But if you're trying to get, for a male, let's say below 8%, what I found is your energy stores are going to be very low. Your just overall energy. Um, so you're going to have to utilize slow, long distance cardio sometimes. You could throw in 1 or 2 days of interval training, which is what I've been doing, but it's very taxing on the nervous system. But you also got to realize, with the contest coming up, I've been devoting 2.5 hours a day to my training, where that's not realistic for most people that are after fat loss.
Right. Yeah, bodybuilding is a different ballgame. Especially if you're competing, I mean, there's just stuff that goes with the territory that you just have to deal with. It's if you're going to compete, it's a priority, and it's going to pull rank over a lot of other things, and you just have to be okay with that. It's just the way it is. I mean, if you're just looking to get lean for summer, you don't have to do 2, 3 hours of training a day. But if you're looking to compete, you kind of have to bite the bullet there and just do it. Because if you're not doing it, somebody else is going to be doing it.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, we keep going back to that as well. Is depends how lean the person wants to get, right? So what I've always found that works when I'm setting diets up for a client, like I had a new client, a distant client yesterday that wanted, he's getting married in 5 months and he wants to lose about 20 pounds. So we still will use the scale. We'll also do like the body composition through a Poliquin biosignature, but I'll probably set his calories at his body weight times 10, and that gives you pretty close to your basal metabolic rate. And then we adjust upwards or downwards from there. Some people that's too low, some people that's too high. Like I said with myself, now, and we'll talk about metabolic efficiency, and that's a whole, some people refer to it as metabolic damage. But I've got to go with really low calories to get lean. That's the only way about it.
How's your strength levels been?
They're pretty good right now on Mondays and Tuesdays after my high carb Sundays, and then Mondays and this week I just kept it to Monday. I still take in 300 grams of carbs,
Mhm.
so they've been pretty solid. This week, for example, on the safety bar box squat on Monday, I was doing 500 pounds for 6 reps.
Nice.
Um, so that's solid. Now, by the end of the week, I'm just going in there trying to deplete the muscle. I'm using a lot of machines. I go to a different gym for that where nobody knows me.
Mhm.
Just trying to pump the muscle, get all the glycogen out. Strength is not that good on those days. And by the time Sundays come around, when I do like my last full body workout to deplete everything before I start carb loading, I, I feel like crap, I feel nauseous and pretty weak. So it depends on what day of the week.
Right. Yeah. Well, I every time I diet down, my strength plummets and it messes with my head. It drives me crazy. Because I when I was in my early 20s, you know, I feel like I just listened to the wrong people when it came to like getting big and getting lean. I just listened to people at the gym, and I went through this phase where all I wanted to do was get big and just be big and be strong and be jacked, I guess. And so I had these. My friends were telling me, well, you got to eat. You have to eat. You know, you got to eat as much as you can. So I mean, I like to eat, so I like kind of went with that. And I would eat like I mean I ate like shit. I didn't know anything about nutrition, you know. And I put on so much weight. Now I'm only 5'6". I got to be like 235. I was freaking huge. I mean, I was muscular, but I was also kind of fat, you know. And so now anytime I diet down, I really have to cut my carbs low because I still have like fat stores that are still there from when I was that big. So now when I really want to get lean, I really have to buckle my diet down and kind of with for me to get under 10% is I could do it, but I have to expect my strength is going to go down because that's just the way it goes, because it's just how my body works, I guess. But I should have never I should have never got that fat. But you live and learn, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I know it's been 6 years since I last competed, and I look at the pictures from when I started contest prep this year at 16 weeks out, early March, and I was like you're saying, I was way too fat. So you make the process that much harder, and kind of like yourself, Chris. Like when I think throughout the years, dieting in the wrong way for bodybuilding shows, I've created, and it sounds like you have too, like that metabolic. People call it damage. I call it efficiency, where your body is so good at utilizing the calories that you have to eat a very low amount if we want to strip off the body fat, because you have to be in a deficit to get body fat off. And I've been experimenting with people at the gym, mostly the females, as far as increasing their calories slowly, like 10 grams of carbs a week, because a lot of females don't eat enough. And it's been working pretty well with some of them, where they're actually changing their composition, little fat's coming off. Now, scientifically, uh, it kind of violates the law of thermodynamics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just it changes from one form to another. But if we want to have a less efficient metabolic engine for physique enhancement, because we want to have the big gas guzzler, the thing that requires calories, allows us to eat a little more. For survival reasons, I think we want more metabolic efficiency. So in times of starvation and whatnot, we can eat a lot less and still function with our immune system, reproductive system, and all that type of stuff. So it gets pretty deep, and it's interesting. Like I know, like you're saying, you gained all this extra fat at one point, and from everything I've read, once a fat cell is created, it'll stay with you
Doesn't go
for
away.
up to a year. Yeah, unless you really starve it out. But even for 10 years, it's going to be the new fat cells. Okay, and then for guys, our stubborn fat, which is just a bitch to lose, but it's not as bad as females, is the lower, the alpha receptors, the alpha adrenal receptors, which are in the lower abs, lower back for most guys. For females, it's the legs and the glutes. So What has your experience been with as far as when you've dieted down and you've gotten the lower fat, the lower ab fat to melt off?
Like what kind of diet have I done?
Yeah, like what have you done? What have you felt like at that point?
The last major diet I did was 2 summers ago. Last summer I really didn't. I was so busy with work and stuff. But 2 summers ago I did Jason Ferrugia's Renegade diet, and it worked really, really well. Like it worked really well. The only thing that I didn't like is I feel like I lost too much muscle on it. I did get very lean. I got down to, so right now let's say I'm about 195. I'm probably about 12 or 13% body fat. You would never know by looking at me because, like you said, those fat stores are there, but it's like with me, it's all loose skin. So unless I get under 10, I look like I don't even work out.
Oh,
But I did Jason Ferrugia's Renegade diet. I had to be maybe 7% or 8% 2 summers ago, and I got down to like 178. So, which is pretty low for me. But again, my strength went down, and I felt like because the way it works is um, you fast for I think 12 hours, 12 to 16 hours depending on your goal. I was fasting from 12 hours for my last meal, so I fast from um, the evening before to the next day. So let's say my last meal was at 10 o'clock. I would fast till about 10 o'clock the next day. And then you would have small meals. So a handful of almonds or, I'd eat like a Greek yogurt or something. And you eat two or three of those. And then you have a 4 hour window at night, preferably after you train, where you have a huge meal. But for me, I feel like maybe it wasn't enough calories. I don't know. I don't know. I was doing conditioning in the morning right before my first snack too, so maybe I was doing too much conditioning. I don't know, but I looked good. I looked really good, but I felt kind of weak. My lifts went down, and I definitely feel like I lost size. But it's all trial and error. You got to kind of figure out. People forget too. Like there's a lot of books that are like 12-week diets and 10-week diets, and same thing with training. And I try and tell people it's a constant reassessment. Like you can't just take a 12-week diet plan and just go with it until it's done. You have to kind of see how it's working and kind of like take notes on it, or mental notes at least, and see kind of what's working and what's not working and tweak it as you go. Because 12 weeks is a long time. That's like 3 months.
yeah,
If you're just following this diet by the book, you're really not helping yourself. You're kind of like being like a little bit mindless about it. You kind of have to, you just kind of know that it's okay to make changes to these things based on how you feel, based on how you look. I know a lot of guys who compete, they base their refeed days on how they look that day. They see how they look, and if they're looking a little flat, they'll up the carbs the next day. So it's not set in stone. These 10 or 12-week diets are not set in stone. You can absolutely change them a little bit, based on what you see in the mirror. And people just need to remember that. So I
yeah,
totally forgot that with the Renegade diet. Like I just went for it, but I learned from my mistakes. Like I got, I didn't get scrawny, but I wasn't as big as I thought I would be, and definitely wasn't as strong. So
yeah, and it's like you're saying, it's. I think people want a linear process to fat loss, and it doesn't work that way. I just finished reading it was a chaos diet by Anthony Michael. And it's pretty interesting because he incorporates a lot of intermittent fasting, but basically you're going, and this is where the scale gets a bad rap sometimes, and I think it is a bad tool for females because it plays big time mind games with them. But we know because we've been doing it so long is if the scale's going too far one way, we got to cut back temporarily. If we're dropping or we're not or we're feeling weak or whatnot, then we have to increase calories. So his chaos thing, it all is based on intermittent fasting, but it's a fluid process, like you're saying. It's up and down. Some days, depending how you feel, it's going to be higher calories. Some days it's going to be lower calories. And as far as the intermittent fasting, I know we talked privately, me and you, it goes against everything in bodybuilding, but the past 2 months, that's what I've been doing for a few reasons. First, I eat 16 hours after my last meal, allows growth hormone to be much higher. It allows me to be much more productive in the morning too. So I'm going to continue that as a lifestyle after the contest this weekend and next weekend. And secondly, like on my really low calorie, low carb days, like today was one of them, I'll get to have two pretty decent sized meals, which seems to work a lot better with me than these 5 or 6 little small meals. Again, it's a personal preference. But my first meal today will be a pound of chicken breast, a cup of oatmeal, veggies, and some sauerkraut. So you're gonna eat a pound of chicken. I mean, it puts a dent in the hunger and holds me over until I eat again around 8 o'clock tonight. Um, and what I've been doing, because training in the morning works best for my schedule, so especially later in the week, I won't do it on Mondays because I just had my high carb day the day before. But the rest of the week, I'll sip on 10 grams of branch chains on the way over to the gym. I'll do my weight workout, and then I'll do my conditioning, whether it's a step mill or whatever, for 55 minutes. By the time I get to that, those branch chains are burned up. They're protected muscle. Um, so insulin's low once again, and I'm in fat burning mode.
Right. And one thing that we talked about when we met up a few weeks ago, it kind of made me think, and I generally follow. I try to follow like the 5 or 6 meals a day, only because I'm constantly hungry, and fasting for me is tough. But once a couple weeks in, if I do fasting, I'm usually pretty good. My body's got to adapt. But one thing that you told me, and it made sense, and I didn't think of it that way, is you read these muscle magazines, right? These mainstream muscle magazines that are all about bodybuilding and they're hardcore and whatever. A lot of them preach the 5 or 6 meals a day, and you raised a good point, saying that it was because of supplement sales. They want you to drink shakes 5 or 6 meals a day. With shakes in with those meals, and it makes complete sense. Um, so, you know, just be careful. Like I said earlier, be careful who you listen to. I mean, there's always like another agenda, especially in like this industry. Um, there's always some hidden agenda somewhere, and you may not even be aware of it. Because I wasn't even aware of it. I mean, I didn't even think of it that way. You raised that point, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. So
Yeah, yeah. You always gotta, and who's putting the message out there, who's funding the research, um, and traditionalism. This dogmatic approach that a lot of these people use. "Oh, I'm going to do it because that's the way it's always been done." Well, you got to constantly reevaluate your thought process. So for me, if you asked me intermittent fasting a few years ago, I'd tell you you're crazy. It's nuts. But then as you grow as a coach and you're trying to do different things, you start figuring out what's best for the health. And again, yeah, it's people need the ability to think for themselves or to find coaches out there that are going to think outside the box and keep pushing the envelope and not be scared to change their mind. I know Mike Boyle always says, "Yeah, I changed my mind. It's my right to change my mind as I learn and I grow." I mean, that's the whole point. A lot of people don't do that. Um, One more thing I want to talk about, and I'll get your input on it too. I know Charles Poliquin, who brilliant. I saw him a few times. I talked about biosignature. He says if you stay at a certain body fat, I think he says for up to 18 months, that'll kind of be the new set point for you, meaning that's where your body will be comfortable. I know Martin Bierkan from, hope I said that right. I always confuse his last name, but from Lean Gains, that guy maintains, I think, 5 to 7% year-round now after experimenting with intermittent fasting for, I don't know, 5, 6 years he's been doing it. And it seems to have really reset him because he wasn't a naturally lean guy.
5 to 7%.
Yeah,
Wow. I mean, it makes complete sense. Your body is constantly adapting. Your body's very, very smart um, at adapting and changing the way it does things to become more efficient. So, I mean, I didn't hear Paul Consuete say that. I'm sure he did, but it makes complete sense. I mean, 18 months is a long time. If you could hang on to that, that particular body fat percentage for a while, I could see it being beneficial. But I could see that it makes sense. It makes sense.
yeah, and I know he talks about I don't see it in my gym, but he talks about every male should be 12% or below. If one of his male athletes is 12%, he considers him as fat. Uh,
Really?
yeah, so he wants all his pro athletes, 8% or less. And then females, I believe his range is, he wants between like 16 and 18. So it's really high standards.
Hmm.
Um, but I think he's onto something. I think we've become way too fat as a population. Um, but I think if you stay leaner longer, or you stay leaner, or you're just a leaner person, insulin sensitivity is better. I think it's actually easier to gain muscle. After you get through the adaptation period, I think it's much easier to put on quality muscle. Then I'm going to experiment it with that, after the show. Um, but let's do this. You got any final words of? I see I'm running low on battery. Any final words we want to say in the first episode?
um, let's do this. So today's episode was about mainly about nutrition, right? Give a couple books that you think people should read, because I think with nutrition, and I went through this with Ryan Muncie yesterday when I was on his podcast yesterday. Um, is that I think people think they're it's not so much that they don't want to eat healthy. I think it's just more that they're uneducated about what eating healthy is. Like I was raised on cereal. My mom thought that was healthy. It's not healthy. For those of you who think it's healthy, it's not. It's not healthy at all. So I think it's just uneducation. So you have a couple books you think people would dig.
Yeah, stuff I've been reading lately that kind of most people wouldn't know these people, but I believe it's Eat, Stop, Eat by Brad Pillon, Pilon, or it's two L's, which is all about intermittent fasting. Um, a book by Lee Peel is it's a fat loss stop, and she also has starvation mode, which is about metabolic damage slash efficiency, which is very interesting. She's a very bright girl um, that's in the field. And then I'm reading one by Scott Abel, which the name escapes me, but it's about our mental and emotional attachment to dieting. And that's a whole thing we'll talk about in another episode, but it's about, we are not, we got to remember our self-image is not our, a lot of people confuse our body image with our self-image. So if you take a healthy, emotionally balanced approach to dieting, and you learn to listen to the cues of your body, you're going to have the physique that's right for you. Most people just drown that out. They eat because they're programmed to eat and whatnot. Let me think of one last diet book that would be pretty solid. I just got Alan Oregon's new book, which is all about fat loss. Again, I can't remember the name of it, but it got really high reviews, and that guy backs everything up that he does with research. And then, of course, I've told you before, Lyle McDonald, all his stuff, UD2, so it's Ultimate Diet 2.0, Stubborn Fat Loss Solution, and Rapid Fat Loss Solution. All this stuff is really good, but those books are phenomenal. What about yourself?
I'm gonna make it easy on people and just say check out the Renegade Diet. It's very simple. It's a quick read. It's so simple to implement, and again, it's by Jason Ferrugia. The guy's got a great track record online. And he had a gym in Jersey. He has a gym in Jersey. So check out that book. And he kind of goes through, and it's very simple. It's not very scientific, but it makes sense and it works. So for those people who are just looking for not an easy fix, but something that's you know not so you know, I'm not very smart, so it was easy for me to read. No, but you know, something that's not so scientific and uses a lot of studies and just something that works and it makes complete sense. Just check that book out. It's a quick, easy read.
Agreed. That is a good book. I just got that recently.
Yeah.
And lastly, guys, I guess what we would like to say is that if you liked the video, make sure you click like, leave a comment on anything that you would like to see in future episodes. We're going to be doing this twice a month to start out, and as the viewership grows, we might go to once a week. Um, and then also click subscribe so you can be updated when we put up new episodes.
Hmm. What's your blog, Kyle, so people can see that too?
Newell Strength, Newell Strength.com. And
Mine
yours?
is jerseybeast.tv. All right, so hopefully you guys will hear more from you. Let us know what else you want to hear about, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, peace, guys.
Later, guys.